Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Where were you on August 16th, 1977? Well, that was the day we lost the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. There's been a resurgence of Elvis during the last 20 years, and part of that is thanks to today's podcast guest. He's a singer-songwriter that revived the cherished Memphis Sound with the help of Elvis Presley's best friend and road manager, Joe Esposito. Will you please welcome the next king, CDX Records, Sony Music, and the Orchard recording artist, John Krondes. John, welcome. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks very much for having me on your show, and very exciting. Glad to have everybody listening out there. Very excited.
John, I know exactly where I was when Elvis Presley died. It was 1977. I was 17. I had just attended my father's retirement from U.S. Steel in Gary, Indiana, and I was listening to the news, and it came on WGN that Elvis Presley had died. Where were you, or what were you doing August 16, 1977?
I was in junior high school, and I think it was seventh grade. I remember the day. I was in a track practice.
Uh-huh.
I played football and ran track and sang. And I remember people talking about it. People found out about it. I was actually at Mather Junior High School in Darien, Connecticut. That's where I went to junior high school, and was outside on the field when that news came in.
Wow. That's amazing. I'll never forget that. And it seems like everyone knows where they were with 9/11, and I think a lot of people know where they were when Elvis Presley passed away, too. How did you get involved with Elvis music? Was it something, you were in junior high? Were you an Elvis fan at any point during that time frame, or was it later in life?
Well, I always liked Elvis. I mean, I had a lot of influences. Loved the Eagles, Rolling Stones, loved Frank Sinatra, Elvis, loved them all. My father worked at RCA Records and ABC Records.
Perfect.
Yep. That half answers your question. My dad used to bring me home 45s and albums when I was a little kid.
There you go.
Years old. My father brought me home Suspicious Minds. I remember that.
1968.
When that first came out.
Mm-hmm.
I was about 5 years old. And I remember loving that song, playing it over and over again. And ironically, years later, my song A Dream for Peace and many others, I've met up with literally all of Elvis Presley's remaining musicians. And that particular track, that song that's hitting radio, Dream for Peace Medley, which is a new recording of If I Can Dream, is actually the American Sound studio band that recorded Suspicious Minds with Elvis that's playing behind me. Mm-hmm. The same band I heard, with that 45 as a little toddler, and then ended up recording several songs with them before some of them started to pass just a few years ago. And after recording these songs, just amazing. But sure, I loved Elvis, but it was never intentional that I would end up having all these people that played with Elvis and sang with Elvis making records with me. It was all an act of God.
It's got to be mind blowing. I think I would have a hard time understanding that. As far as it just blows me away. How'd you get with Elvis Presley's best friend and road manager Joe Esposito? How that all was it just a chance meeting or what?
Not even a chance meeting. Word traveled fast.
Mm-hmm.
First recorded The End with the Jordanairs, which was written by my father. Mm-hmm. Earl Grant's first big hit in 1958. At the End of a Rainbow, very big international hit, still is every version that comes out. And Elvis Presley actually chose that song, The End, to sing and serenade his future wife, Priscilla Bellew, on the night they met in Germany. And I ended up recording and writing a new arrangement of my father's song, The End. My father passed in 1986, which was horrifying to me. He was my mentor and got me started writing music and started making demos with me, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But
right, yes.
I ended up writing this new arrangement of The End, went into the Hit Factory. I played it for George Andrews, a very famous arranger, had a lot of big hits, and he heard my piano and voice recording and sat and listened and said, "You want to know what I think?" And I kind of cringed And he started laughing hysterically. And I thought that, that's, he didn't like it. And then he says, you sound like Elvis, and pointed at me, started laughing again. That's the last response that I was expecting, and started laughing again, said, who's going to sing with you? I said, I have no idea what you mean. And he says, I love it, and started laughing again hysterically. And he says, you need a godly vocal group like Elvis had, like the Jordanairs, and started laughing again hysterically, and then paused and said, I wonder if they're still alive. Next thing I know, a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks later, they were sent the recording. I had a producer that I started working with at Sony Music that they assigned to me, Dixon Van Winkle, who was an old school producer who got it and loved it, and said the Jordanairs replied and heard the track, like just my voice and piano at the end, and said that they liked it. And their reply and response was, if you want to send John to Las Vegas, we'll, quote, try a session and see how it goes. So Dixon Van Winkle got very excited. We were all excited, and George Andrews. And Dixon said, let's start 3 or 4 more songs. That would be silly to go to Las Vegas to record one song with the Jordanairs, the big opportunity. So we ended up with a new arrangement and recording I started of Can't Help Falling in Love, which is essentially finished now. I'm just about to add strings and horns to some of these earlier songs. And a song I wrote with my father, The Way I Feel Tonight, and a couple others. So that was the start of this. Then Sony Music liked this. We ended up putting out a tester CD at the end to some radio stations, and immediately got radio play. And Joe Esposito heard about me. They all started hearing about me. And radio stations were saying that it sounds like Elvis. And fans were calling, thinking it was Elvis from day one, from song number 1 with the end. And which led to me meeting Ronnie Tutt and the band members of the TCB Band. And Ronnie Tutt said, you want to try a session with our guys? And so that was kind of in planning for about 6 months. And then he called and said, are you ready? He said, we're all in town. Can we do this? It was like a few weeks later in Nashville. So we ended up doing a session, and I brought several songs that my father wrote that a couple intended for Elvis, and a song that my father wrote with Al Stillman, who wrote the song I Believe. They had a follow called Do You Know Him? My mother had me bring that song and show the band. So we ended up cutting 6 or 7 tracks, and it was just magical. And Ronnie Tutt had said, I'd like to bring Reggie Young, another guitar player, to play with James Burton on that session. And little did I know, Reggie Young, a very famous guitar player as well, he was the guitar player with the American Sound Studio Band. So from the first second TCB Band, Reggie Young says, this music's really great. We love the music. And from day one, everybody would continue to ask through the years, do you have any more songs? And I would laugh. See, my father died and left me truckloads of songs that were never recorded, some that were, they're big hits. And I'm writing with Paul Evans, who wrote with Elvis, through an introduction by Tom Malone on the David Letterman show, who played trombone and on the end. In my first session, everybody had the same response. This reminds me of Elvis. So one session led to another. But from the very first recording session with the TCB Band that I did, I got a phone call, believe it or not, from Joe Esposito. Literally, not a month later, but on the night that I returned on my flight from that session, a couple of days later from Nashville, Newark Airport in New York, and my mother had picked me up. We're in the car, my cell phone rings, and I have Joe Esposito introducing himself to me. And I said, I know who you are, Joe. I said, great to meet you. And it was just like that. He said, I heard about your session with the TCB Band. I hear this music's really great. And when can I hear it? So he arranged a plane ticket for me to go to Los Angeles and set up a recording studio, brought some media people and record people. So next thing I know, I had a room full of people and Joe Esposito listening to those 7 tracks that we cut in Nashville. And he stood up and grabbed my arm, and I thought he was going to break it, and twisted it, and started to cry, and said, I can't believe what I'm hearing. He said, I closed my eyes, and I thought I heard Elvis. And he said, this is absolutely amazing. And he says, I'm going to help you. And that's how he spent the last 12, 15 years of his life,
yeah.
recording one after the next.
John, it just floors me because when I got pitched this and I started listening to it and going, is this previously unreleased Elvis stuff and that you're covering or what? It's just amazing. It's just like a rebirth, let's just say. It's just something that our audience worldwide is just going to absolutely love. We're going to feature that song right now. Here's John Krondes, the legendary Jordanairs. The song is The End on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
At the end of a rainbow, you'll find a pot of gold. At the end of a story, you'll find it's all been told. But our love has a treasure our hearts can always spend, and it has a story without any end. At the end of a river, the water stops its flow. At the end of a highway, there's no place you can go. But just tell me you love me, and you are only mine, and our love will go on till the end of time. River, the water stops its flow. At the end of a highway, there's no place you can go. But just tell me you love me, and you are only mine, and our love will go on till the end of time, till the end of time, till the end of time, till the end of
Wow, Elvis is alive and well, at least in our minds, thanks to today's podcast guest, John Krondes. We'll have more music from John in just a moment, but before we do, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast. You can find us on the web at Someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you're going to find our recent news, our archive of past episodes, and a whole lot more. If you happen to be visiting, please leave us a review. We really do appreciate that. According to Buzzsprout, the service that shares us to all the streaming platforms, we say thank you so very much for everybody tuning in. We're blessed 2,100 cities and 85 countries around the world. A couple of new ones we like to add: Dustin, Florida; Seal Beach, California; Austin, Texas; and Elvis's hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. The Someone You Should Know podcast, heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. Thanks for listening. We're listening and speaking to CDX Records, Sony Music, and the Orchard recording artist John Krondes. John, I got to tell you something. This year, my wife Leslie and I, we got tired of watching all the crummy movies that are out on the streaming platforms. So we decided to delve back into the archives and go through some 50s, 60s, and 70s movies, and we've been watching some Elvis movies. We watched Blue Hawaii and Viva Las Vegas. In your opinion, what made Elvis so loved by fans?
I think it was just like what you said, not that I am in competition with Elvis, but the whole thing was magical. I mean, his voice, his sound, but it was a combination of things. And that's how I explain this to people. To me, this was a blessing. It was a gift from rock and roll heaven that I'm even involved in this. I have no idea how it happened, and it continues to evolve. But Elvis had the most unbelievable group of musicians around him. And it was not just one little group or clique. It was the American Sound Studio Band, the TCB Band. There was all kinds of fabulous musicians, but they all had a common thread, a common sound, which radio stations and fans are now commenting on with my new Memphis rock music. They say this is a rebirth. Like you're saying, it's that unmistakable Memphis sound. And it's even being in the middle of this in the recording studio, when I myself come in there and hear playback after cutting a few tracks with all these musicians that played with Elvis, sang with Elvis, as they all start to end up on a song, it's just the most amazing sound. Other musicians, producers, people walk in the room and their jaws drop and they're like, "Oh my God, Elvis is in the room." And it's not just me. I have no idea what I sound like. I tell people that however it comes out, I sing with the voice that God gave me, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
But culmination of things, I guess, that putting all those people back together, it sounds like new Elvis music. It's just undescribable, very powerful. And it reminds me myself of that powerful sound that Elvis left off, had finished with. Mm-hmm. It's like it's all back. The machines are running, and the music machine is running. The Memphis Sound has returned. It's like if you got all four of the Beatles back together, they're not going to sound like Elvis music, or they're not going to sound like the Eagles. It's going to sound like the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that distinct sound, that Memphis sound.
You said something initially when you got the 45 of Suspicious Minds. Now that you are recording it, it's gone full circle here. How do you feel? I mean, isn't that a little bit overwhelming?
It's very overwhelming. Even hearing back, there's so many songs. I'm blessed that we never stopped recording. Joe Esposito wouldn't let me stop recording. My arranger, Jordanairs, would yell at me, still yells at me, saying, "You don't need any more songs. What are you going to do with so many songs? Finish what we have." And I just would follow God, listen, and I would get more calls, more people that played with Elvis, and which would end up in more sessions. And I still won't turn down the opportunity to start music with. It's capturing a moment. It's capturing history. So whenever we have the opportunity to be back in the studio, we'll start new songs, work on songs that are in progress. That's how it's always been. And it's just a remarkable occurrence. And it's a blessing.
This question I've got to ask, because this just popped into my head. In your private time, when you're just quiet and you're meditating, whatever it might be, do you hear Elvis in your head at all?
Yes and no. I pray to Elvis in church. I'm like the Jordanairs.
Mm-hmm.
Many of these musicians, I'm very spiritual, and pray to my father and Joe Esposito,
mm-hmm.
and some of the past musicians to guide me and to keep me focused and keep this running and show me the way to steer straight ahead and to keep bringing this out to the world and finishing these recordings. And it's a race against time. So I hear Elvis in my head all the time.
Awesome. Are you doing some Elvis gospel music also? Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, like the song I had mentioned previously in my very first session I did with the TCB Band, we recorded a gospel song called "Do You Know Him?" It has not been released yet. Okay. The only two things that have been released now since the Elvis movie came out is what started all this. We've got worldwide support with radio and distribution. Is The End and A Dream for Peace, which is gospel. If I Can Dream was a gospel song that Elvis had sang for peace. And that song was sang in the '68 comeback special, because of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pretty much almost every couple sessions all along, Joe Esposito wanted us to do that and to record gospel music. And which Elvis did that to give back because of his blessings. And he had a very strong faith, which I think is important for the music, for what this is, for the players, for the fans. And it's a thanks to God and rock and roll heaven for having this happen.
Absolutely.
We have a number of gospel and inspirational songs. The end actually gets played on gospel stations. It's one of the greatest love songs of all time.
Yeah.
And crosses genres of music and pop, country, gospel. A lot of this music it's being branded as that Memphis Sound, which is stations are calling this country, rock, gospel, and blues all mixed together. And that's exactly what Elvis's music
That's
was.
what it should be. Just called it Elvis genre. Just call it the Elvis genre. That'd be just that easy because it's so multi-dimensional, especially the gospel. One of my favorite gospel songs has got to be Lord, You Gave Me a Mountain. And Elvis singing that, he just absolutely is. I think he did that in the Hawaii special, the 73 Hawaii special. Aloha from Hawaii. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorites. Now, the next song we're going to feature is something that was synonymous with the King, was Las Vegas. What's the story on Vegas in the Morning?
Well, actually, the song came about because of my opportunity to start recording with the Jordanairs, which from the minute they sang on the end, it was just magic. All the engineers, producers, everybody there couldn't believe the sound. Just from the minute they sang on that song with me, it just was magic. So that recording session led to many more. And the Jordanairs were actually in Las Vegas doing a show. They were doing a Patsy Cline tribute at a casino in Las Vegas. So, for me to have the opportunity to record with them, I went to Las Vegas. And after everybody loved this, the producer at Sony and the arranger, everybody loved the recordings, they said, let's keep going. And we started cutting one song after the next. So I had many trips to Las Vegas before they finished that show. And I had a ball there. I absolutely loved Las Vegas and had a few cocktails and walked up and down the strip and, went into all the clubs and casinos and just saw the pretty girls and absolutely loved everything about it, separate from my recording in the studio. I just thought the whole vibe and excitement of the city was just so exciting to me. And the song came about when I actually got home and thought about how much fun I had and what a great place that is. And the party never ends. Night turns to day, and that's what the song's all about. There's no windows. It's just one continuous party. And whatever your stage of life is, everybody forgets everything and has a ball in Las Vegas. So to me, it was just a thought, and the title that came into my head, Take Me Back to Vegas in the Morning. And I couldn't wait to get on a plane to go back to Vegas. So I started sitting at a keyboard and started writing this great, fun song, and ended up collaborating with Paul Evans, who was one of Elvis's writers, who actually wrote other hits and songs for Elvis. He had a lot of big hits with Elvis. So that's one of the songs that we wrote together, Paul Evans and I.
This is an amazing song. You're going to absolutely love Vegas in the Morning. John Krondes right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
One more night, give me one more kiss. I want one more glass of wine. I want one more round of everything, of the best of you can find. One more dance, give me one more chance to party all night long. 'Cause all my friends are waiting there and the lights are always on. So won't you take me back? Las chicas son bonitas en Las Vegas. Just take me
Great song, Vegas in the Morning on the Someone You Should Know podcast. From today's podcast guest, John Krondes. Man, some great music today. I'm just getting that real chill bumps on my arms. It's so good. In working with Joe Esposito, the Jordanairs, his band, is there some things that you learned about Elvis that you hadn't known before, just hearing their stories?
I heard about everything from Joe Esposito, and actually I've come, she's still around. We're very close. I became very good friends with Ginger Alden, and it was the two of them that found Elvis dead in the bathroom. Ginger Alden was with Elvis the night he died, or morning he died. And, she, from her stories, telling me what a wonderful person he was planning on marrying her. And she's very hurt with, there's so many people that wrote books and, according to her, trashed her that, he was never going to marry you. And, he had a lot of girls and it meant nothing to him, blah, blah, blah. So, I heard things on a very personal nature from Ginger, and also about the fact that, she's very hurt by stories of people saying, Elvis, wanted to commit suicide and did all these drugs and what have you, which was not the case. She had told me, and Joe told me, that Elvis was very excited in 1977 about making more music and greater music, and had such wonderful musicians in place that it's almost if I picked up where he left off, is what people are saying. And I've heard a lot of stories about Elvis that were not so good, about some of his so-called friends and his inner circle of friends that also wrote a book about him. And I got thrust as soon as I ended up recording with his band, and Joe Esposito took the helm and became the manager and head of the project. I heard about everything, about the fun that they had. Dean Nicopolis, Dr. Nick, I met them all, and still very close friends with Dean Nicopolis, who was Dr. George Nicopolis' son, who taught Elvis racquetball. He told me how Elvis and Dean would go out on motorcycles in the middle of the night. That's when they would go out and ride around on their motorcycles. And I heard about all the fun that the guys had with him, and really heard about everything that went on, and from the stories from Joe and some of the people that I had met that knew him.
What are your thoughts on the Baz Luhrmann movie about Elvis and the Priscilla movie that just came out last year? What are your thoughts on those two things? Are they portrayed Elvis properly?
For the most part, I think yes. I think they're all great for keeping the memory and legacy of Elvis alive. That's I'm thankful to all of them. That really helped escalate into orbit my music, which there was so much interest. Joe Kelly, CDX Nashville, he had the idea of releasing my song "The End" to radio a day before the Elvis movie came out, and that's when all this activity started. And now with the Priscilla movie coming out, because of the fact that Elvis sang "The End" to Priscilla the night they met, was part of how they met. This has become a whole big thing again, and another resurgence of that song, "The End," in my recording with the Jordanairs. And right now, Play MPE, one of the biggest worldwide distributors, is promoting and distributing that all over the world. It went out in Europe a few weeks ago, beginning of January, and was just released to Australia and New Zealand in the last couple of weeks. And there's more e-blast coming out, going out to South Africa and the Latin countries next. And
Jesus, incredible.
It just created such a tremendous new interest and renewed interest in everything Elvis. There's a lot of young kids, as I'm sure you've read about and heard about. Kids that might be 7 years old that love watching that movie and identifying with Elvis and the whole aura of his musicians and the music. And it was just a rebirth of everything Elvis, those movies.
There you go. Very good. Now, I know there's a lot of folks listening right now. They want to know exactly where can they get your music.
Well, we've had these many conversations with the Orchard, Sony Music, the Orchard, who's doing a great job, and from day one. And now we're in high gear. There's a lot of demand for my music, and they're very big and experts in this business, and they're quickly re-identifying markets and where to sell this, where to market this. One of the things which you just said, one of their focuses is getting this on every streaming platform. They're doing an advertising campaign which started in January. They have little video ads running on social media with buttons to push, hear the end, and you push a button and it brings up a menu. You can listen to this on Spotify, on Tidal, and Amazon Music, and all these various Deezer. There's all kinds of platforms. So they put a list of like 6 platforms where you can listen to this and purchase the music. And they're the ones that are controlling all this, but it's on Amazon and iTunes and,
Good.
Pretty much all the, the streaming and platforms where people, if they want to download and pay for a single
Mm-hmm.
to keep the song in their computer, it's out there. And Sony's, the Orchard are redoing this marketing campaign to get this everywhere. Everything keeps changing. But, as you know, what they say, their promotion is trying to get this to where people see this everywhere and want to stream it, because for the most part, this is not like the business 30 years ago, where the only way to hear a song over again would be go to a store and buy the
Right.
45.
Yeah.
The struggle for all these record companies is people don't have to buy anything.
Yeah.
It's for the most part free. They figured out now how to charge people $5 a month to have a paid account on Spotify and some of these platforms. But that's where you need to be, because of the fact that there's not a lot of people buying a lot of things, and it's a subscription.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
To be able to hear the music over and over again and save it into your playlist, or how they do it.
Your music is constantly evolving and such. What's some good social media links so we can stay in tune to what's going on with you as far as, and is there a possibility of a tour?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Good question. And one of the most active social media platforms, I'm on all of them, but the one that's really buzzing all the time is Instagram. Okay. And I'm told that's a very, very popular, still one of the top platforms out there for a variety of reasons. And we have over 1.2 million followers, mainly music and Elvis fans. A lot of people from all over the world every day coming on board to follow my account. It's really wonderful. And it's a place where people connect and meet each other. Great place to hear news on my project, new recordings, new events happening, new radio stations, and playing my music. A lot of great things on there. Instagram Reels, we can hear pieces of new songs in progress. I'm on Facebook. There's 2 Facebook pages, my John Krondes friends page, which people can send invitations to and then come on board. There's also the professional official John Krondes artist page. I'm on Spotify and also LinkedIn. I'm getting blowing up LinkedIn. I get all kinds of new people following me and requesting to connect with me on LinkedIn. A lot of people like yourself. I'm finding a lot of industry people from all over the world, radio stations, programmers, really wonderful connections on there.
So what we'll do is we'll include all of those social links down in the show notes. So anyone listening in right now, they'll get a chance to just click on it. It'll take you to his Instagram, his Facebook, and definitely ways to purchase and listen to his music.
It's incredible.
Yeah. We're going to wrap the show up with a great song. This is something you've mentioned a couple of times, A Dream for Peace. And I thank you so very much, John, for taking time to share your craft with us and kind of give us some good memories about Elvis Presley and to carry on the vibe of the music, the Memphis Sound. This is something that new generations are going to appreciate, the Elvis sound. And I thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight.
Thank you so much. Great interview, and loved your show. Hope to be back again. It's absolutely wonderful. And thank you to everybody out there in the world. You've got a great show going in many countries and all over the world. Thanks so much to everybody. Thanks for listening.
if I can dream of a better land where all my brothers walk hand in hand. Tell me why, oh why, oh why can't my dream come true? Oh why? There must be peace and understanding sometime. Strong winds of promise that will blow away the doubt and fear. If I can dream of a warmer sun where hope keeps shining on everyone, tell me why, oh why, oh why won't that sun appear? We're lost in a cloud with too much rain. We're trapped in a world that's troubled with pain. As long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. Deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still, I am sure that the answer's gonna come somehow. Out there in the dark, there's a beckoning candle, yeah. And while I can think, while I can talk, while I can stand, while I can walk, while I can dream, oh please let my dream come true. And while I can think, while I can talk, while I can stand, while I can walk, while I can dream, oh please let my dream come true. And while I can think, while I can talk, while I can stand, while I can walk, while I can dream, oh please let my dream come true. Right now, let it come through right now. Whoa, now, what I can do.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.